energy is used, what kind of energy is saved if we recycle, and what kind of energy is generated if we burn these items. So if you burn newspaper in an incinerator versus if you had recycled a newspaper, you would have saved 2.6 times of energy. And you can see the numbers. Aluminum can is like 350 times. Now this is saving, which happens because we are now reducing the virgin material, which would have been otherwise, if you look at newspaper itself, the tree would have been cut down, it would have been chopped, pulped, and the newspaper would have come out, and the entire transportation, etc. in between. So from that angle also, from the energy perspective also, it is not the best way to handle our waste. And the third thing I want to point out, when we say waste to energy, it's not that you're burning away everything, nothing is left. There is huge amount of waste, huge amount of ash which is left. About anywhere between 15 to 25% material is still left, and you need landfill, etc. to handle that waste. So hence, if we just stop recycling and put everything in incinerator, there will be huge amount of ash which will continue to get generated. And the fourth point, which many of you might have heard, is the pollution aspect, which is dioxins, furans, very harmful chemicals. And another number I would like to share is that if we look at the operations of incinerator, the cost of managing emissions is very high. You need continuous chemical coatings and filters to be able to contain dioxins, etc., which we see that many of the developed nations do a much better job of it. I'll focus more from the material angle. Yes, complexity of materials. If it's a single type of material, recycling is easier. But the more materials we mix and match with any kind of product, it becomes challenging, because one, you have to put labor in it to separate out all the items, and then you need destination for all the different parts. So that makes it challenging. Now, just coming to, obviously one is what can be recycled, what cannot be recycled. Correct. Then the economics of it, one is technically is something recyclable or not recyclable, and then the economics of it, and then the logistic of it. Like I said, paper in India can be recycled. There's so much paper recycling happening, but the logistic is not in place for all this material to move into these factories and get recycled. With something on paper, I will quickly show you certain things on paper. Yes, white paper is a important category. Recycling rates are pretty good. It's great to recycle white paper because making of white paper requires chlorine bleaching, which is very harmful. So the more white paper you recycle, it is great. It is more important than recycling color paper also. So please make sure none of your white paper is used for wrapping anything. Please send it for recycling. Now, apart from that, you have a lot of, if you look at our homes, you have these kinds of, dabbas. Okay. So all this something which could have a plastic, layer like this. Right. All this is going for something called color. This posters like this, glossy right. Posters like this. Then you have items like this. Now, all these definitely have big amount of paper, but they do have some amount of plastic layer, or there is, like, as I said, too much color in it. So hence these are all going for something called color. Then you have the newspapers, which are separately collected. We have a pretty good system in India for separate newspaper collection. The Kabadiwala takes it. Then you have the cardboard boxes. So these are the 4 broad categories. I just want to show this also. This is, a lot of bills comes in this. Yeah. Now this is thermal paper. I just want to point out it is quite harmful. Even if you touch it, there is, BPA layer, etc. You can't see it obviously, but it is something very bad. So try and avoid not taking back your slips. And this is, although it is white, it doesn't go in white paper because this print, as you know, keeps coming off. So this also goes in your color thing. So first we need to understand there are thermosetting and thermoplastic. So plastic is basically short form of thermoplastics, where the plastic can be reformed continuous again and again through heating. Thermosetting are not which can be reformed again and again. So a lot of hard plastic, if you look at in your household, be it in your furniture or household fittings, or are all electronic goods, a lot of car parts. Some big chunk is thermosetting, which is I believe in India they do cut it, and it is it is shredded and melted and it is used, but their recycling rates in thermosetting are low. They are because there are a lot of additives which are added, and there's nothing great that you can form out of it. But the other thermoplastic, definitely recycling rates are better, especially if you know PET. PET is great. The data says 80% gets recycled. PET, water bottles ke alawa, even this is PET. Most of the caps are PP. Now we all know polypropylene. We always think of this material, bags and your mask. It is non-woven polypropylene, but polypropylene is used. It's a material used very widely. So most of the caps are made with PP. There are HDP caps also, which are harder, but the softer ones are all PP. There are a lot of this material is also PP. You can, if you see, if you pull it, it will stretch this portion. See, it stretches. Okay, so this is even this. If you see now, this I'll show you both. This is PP. If you see, it stretches. Okay, and see the sound it is making. This is PP, but something very similar. This is laminate. See the sound it is making. And if I stretch it, it will not stretch. It will tear apart. Okay, so this is non-recyclable. It is multi kinds of plastic. It cannot be recycled. PP can be recycled, but see how difficult it is. Imagine a person sitting and
I always thought transparent things were recyclable, and only the Kurkure covers was not recyclable. I mean,
no. So these are all non-recyclable. Then I will also show you. Obviously, all this is non-recyclable. Even this, we think the transparent, and as you said, Anu, rightly, that this is also laminate. From the sound you can make out. It is not soft. Okay. Even this is like a laminate. Okay. You can hear from the sound. Okay. A similar material, if you look at this, this tray, this looks similar, but if you see the sound is different, it bends, it is softer. This is PP. Okay, polypropylene. As I said, polypropylene is a very versatile material. A lot of items in polypropylene. This tub is also polypropylene. See how it. Okay. It is, then even this bottle is polypropylene. Okay. And now even these medicine covers. Okay, they have aluminium, but it is the plastic part is polypropylene. Then even this, this is all aluminium. Okay, so if you have medicine left over, so what we would suggest is you pull out your leftover medicine that should go in your biomedical waste, but you can send the cover empty without medicine in for recycling. Aluminium gets recycled very well. Polypropylene also gets recycled. So separate, remove your medicine, and then you can give it for recycling. This is also polypropylene. So polypropylene is number 5. Okay. Okay, you can be written, and it does go. But then again, it's not that, when I'm sending all this for recycling, I'll just put it all together and it goes. First classification is material. Second is color. Then you have, what is the micron of it? Like we hear microns with respect
we have heard of 50 micron,
plastic bags. Yes. So yes, the problem with micro, the issue is that technically you can, but the cost of handling that material, which is so less in, the trading happens based on kgs handled. So how many kgs of paper plastic you pulled out. So that cost is significantly higher for low micron items. So I will just show you the micron difference. If you look at, see this, these are both HDP items. Okay, the most of your shampoo bottles, etc. Right. Now this is easily pressed. This is lower micron. This is higher.
This is harder.
Yeah. So this will, all these items will go separately. It's not that you can just bunch it up and send it. Then you have, you know, a lot of HDP is another most recycled item. So as I said, all the hard ball types. Then you have the LDP. All these are the softer ones that you can see. This is soft. This is your LDP. You look at Amazon packet. This is LDP.
Bubble wrap. The bubble wrap is LDP. Yes.
Bubble wrap is actually PP. Oh. This portion is LDP. So that's another problem. See, it is stuck to this. So if they have to be sent for recycling, I need to separate it. And other problem is that the color, you know, this is because of the black color and this is white. Values are very different. So the way you need to do is you have to pull it out and separate this. And then you other items which I wanted, you have PVC, which is mostly pipes. Okay. A lot of shoes. Then your, you know, these posters, the
flex posters.
The flex posters, yes. These are all PVC. You get non-PVC variety also, but these are largely PVC. Then you have, these are the hard plastics, like your CDs, your boxes.
Okay, yeah, this is a plastic. The CD is not a metal. I thought the CD was...
No, CD is not plastic. It will crack if you want. If you see, it is all plastic.
Okay.
So this is all in local language, they call it kadak. I don't know whether the same word is used in North also, but in South it is called kadak. It makes this kadak sound. But in India, you know, people have been very, I would say, you know, we are very good with improvising. So a lot of things have come up. So I got to know that, you know, we do, from our units, we do collect pens separately and send it for recycling. And
marker pen.
So a lot of these special, like if you see this item, it is a broken chair. It seems it is called chair. So this material is called chair. And, you know, items like this, this is most probably recycled, you know, some kind of recycled plastic. So it is collected as chair, a lot of these items, and they are then separately. So in our units, you know, the plastic recycling is in about anywhere between 30 to 40 categories based on material, as I said. Then you have the color and you have the grading. So, yeah, so that's the story on plastic.
So the reasons why we talk of segregation at source, and when we talk of segregation at source, we are only expecting people to separate wet, dry, sandy. So these broad categories, we're asking them to put that into different buckets so that you keep away the contamination in terms of your organic waste really mixing up with the dry waste. And that is important because that's a basic. So the next step would be that all of this material then comes into a situation where there is a further sorting that takes place. And we would now really like, in the 21st century, to have well-defined sorting spaces, to have more or less like you have manufacturing, you now need to have aggregation and factories that will, you know, do this kind of secondary sorting. So imagine now in a material recovery facility, you have, you know, all of this mixed dry waste coming into this factory. And then it has to be sorted, as Divya said, into between 25 to around 40 categories. So that's the next very important step, because if we have, remember, recycling is, you know, another form of manufacturing or remanufacturing, if you want to call it that. So every one of these different types of materials have to be aggregated, compacted, and then sent to different recyclers. So it's not that one recycler will take all kinds of plastic. Each different type of plastic will go to a different recycler. Yeah, so this would be essentially what we have to do. We've talked of sensitization. People know about awareness. People know about the basics, which is segregation at source. And now we're talking about collection, because if your waste is segregated, then we need to bring it into a collection system. And today we need to talk about ethical collection. We need to make sure that whoever is coming and collecting your waste has access to minimum wages, has access to a proper facility for the secondary sorting. And we need to also track the data, because if you're collecting from point A and it has to go to a material recovery facility, we want the same volume that has entered into at point A also come into the material recovery facility. So now we are using technology for whether it is an IoT weighing scale, or whether it is proper MIS systems to track the data. That is part now of collection, along with social inclusion, because the informal sector has been so diligent in their workforce, in the way they've been working, and they need now our support to make sure that they are included and they transition to a formal kind of system where they get access to proper kind of ways of working. Once you have the collection happening, and once you have all of that come into a material recovery facility, then that secondary sorting takes place. And this is where you perhaps need now conveyor systems, because then that makes it easier. You need proper lifting mechanisms so that people don't have to carry weights manually, and that is basic technology that can be put into use. So a conveyor system is like a semi-automated kind of system, which is now part of a material recovery facility. But you can add artificial intelligence to be able to identify the different types of plastic, like what Divya showed you. Because today it is not possible with sound or with smell to be able to, like what we did previously. It's fascinating if you go to a place like Jolly Mohalla and see the kind of ingenious ways in which they told the difference between a PP or a PE, all of that. So today you have artificial intelligence that can pick out whether, the different types of plastic, and that's the semi-processing systems that are now being put in place. Unfortunately, in India, we are just starting out with that, whereas in the rest of the world, you have very sophisticated ways in which this is done. I would still say that we are in a good space because we are in a combination of manual, semi-automation, and artificial intelligence. So we are definitely keeping the focus on labor, keeping the focus on the workforce, on livelihood. And then finally, now we need to move, once the materials come into this level of processing, aggregation, compaction, they then have to now move into recycling. So when you talk today of recycling, there are so many different types of recycling. And right above what we should aspire to reach is really closed loop recycling, which means that whatever plastic or whatever paper is being recycled, bring it back into the same form so that that comes back to the generator, and that's how you really convert waste into a resource. For closed loop recycling today, it's just about a few years old, and we have closed loop recycling in India and in especially in South India for HDPE, which is this flexible bottles that are used, say, for Harpic, for shampoos, etc. That's the kind of recycling that is happening at Manjushri in Bidadi in Bangalore, at Banyan Nation in Hyderabad. That's what's happening. And you have companies now who are making it mandatory. Unilever, Reckitt and Benckiser are all saying that now their packaging will have X amount of this recycled PCR, post-consumer granules, in their packaging, and they're all aspiring to increase those percentages. And that's what we as consumers now must actively also ask for. Apart from closed loop recycling, you have upcycling, where especially this takes place for textiles, which is clean textiles, which can be made into products. But again, can be a very small fraction of our total waste that we can actually upcycle. So we must remember that upcycling has its limitations. And then recycling, of course, is the broad terminology that we use, or downcycling. So I would say right now, expecting monies for waste should be considered as unethical, because if we are, as citizens who are responsible, then, and we want the informal sector and we want people working with waste to have a better livelihood, then for sure, when we give newspapers out to our scrap dealer, we need to pay that scrap dealer and not take back any money. Because we've done studies, and we know the economics doesn't work. And that's the reason why we continue to have child labor, and we continue to work with informal practices. Basically, we're seeing that from households and even from institutions, corporates, etc., there is just 2% of waste which has what we call high value, which will meet the cost of all your operations as we've explained it. And that includes PET bottles and to some extent your metal cans, your beverage metal cans. The rest of the waste, even including newspapers, including your paper cups and your your milk packets, are all in that range of negative value, low value, or medium value. So therefore, if you want to run a formal system, a formal waste management company like what we do, we definitely have to have a service fee. Actually, that service fee is very affordable. And if we have that service fee, we can manage up to 98% of all the dry waste, waste which cannot be recycled, as Divya said, your laminates and your low-grade plastic, where the recycling today is really not there. That goes for co-processing. At this point of time, it's acceptable, it's legal, it recovers energy. And so till we have proper recycling, that would be the best solution. But this is the economics which today we need to commit from our apartments and our households. No more getting money for waste, but let's pay for waste. Basically, it is a difficult material because of the logistics. Like a 50 kgs of thermocol will fill up, a small auto. To that extent, it is very difficult to really transport it. At the end destination of recycling, the recycling today is not very great, but it does get compacted, it gets shredded, it gets compacted, it gets made into bricks, and then it is sold as insulation material. So that is one option for recycling, but there could be other solutions coming up. Divya, I don't know if you are familiar with any more other solutions.
So can it not be used again as a packaging material? It has got no value at all. I mean, you're not doing anything. You've bought a new fridge. It can just go back to pack the next fridge, really. I mean,
It can, and that's what companies, if they have to use thermocol, they should be enabling it. But then again, the companies will talk of the cost element. They will have to collect it. This person's vehicle will get filled up with it. They have to invest in it.
Yes.
But it all comes down to investment for a circular economy. So anyway, so glass has also got so many different types of glass. You have white glass, colored glass, tempered glass, float glass, so there is so many different types of glass, and glass also comes sometimes when it is broken, mixed up with, other construction debris. That is the fundamental problem. So for white glass, generally, you can recycle it, and this is really kind of closed loop recycling is possible. But again, companies have not invested in infrastructure, in collection. The collection is still very informal. I mean, it's really shocking to see how people are actually dealing with sometimes broken glass, with bare hands, etc. So again, whilst the brands are big, They have not looked at the logistics of it. To some extent, float glass is being recycled. Saint-Gobain is one company that is doing it. But other than that, it is very difficult for collection. Your, bottles could easily be used for refilling, and that again can be reused, as it was happening a couple of years, maybe 10-15 years ago. But to extent that is also not happening now, because glass is being replaced by PET. So glass also needs, I hope at some stage we'll have a little bit of time to talk about EPR, and plastic is currently coming under the legislation of EPR. We need glass, we need paper, we need textiles, all of this to also come into EPR. And that's the responsibility now of consumers, to push for EPR, not just for plastic, but for all these other materials as well.
So as you know, it is to do with, we have been having great inventions. Plastic was also a great invention. When we start using it recklessly and mindlessly is when the problem happens. So is the case with bioplastics. Just to clarify, bioplastics is a very broad term. It just means that it will have some kind of degradation happening. So we need to distinguish between degradation and composting. So the standards have already come in place, where if you say that this material is, degradable, it may just disintegrate into smaller particles. But if it is compostable, then the features are very different. Definitions and standards have already come in place. We have tried some of the declared compostable plastic packs. We haven't seen any degradation happening even for 1 year, when we had put it in larger piles, not for home composting. We had put it up in a larger composting setup. So as they all claim, it happens in industrial setup where the temperature reaches 60-70 degrees centigrade, or it needs prior shredding for it to degrade. So the jury is still out, but the few things that people need to keep in mind, if it is made, because if it is biodegradable, it is being made with some bio item. It could be cornstarch or various other things. The main thing is whether it is, competing with food security. We are already struggling with high food prices because land is being, there's, that much of degradation of land. We have already lost big part of the land because we don't put compost in it. So, now if we start growing corn for making plastic, will it work out? How much water will go in? We know any agriculture based, the charm of plastic, it doesn't need much water to make. Now, if we start making plastic with the kind of footprint of agriculture products, the fertilizers and the water, it will be significant. So all these things need to be kept in mind. And India will have a big problem with fakes. Anybody will stamp on the plastic paper, say it is biodegradable. We know as a consumer, we will not be sure whether it is or not.
Textile waste is really at a really beginning stage. Currently, it's mainly upcycled, but that's a very small quantity of pre-consumer unsoiled materials that is getting upcycled. Recycling, because again, textiles is also plastic. You're using, a lot of polymers. Polyester is nothing but plastic, correct? So it's a lot of plastic in our textiles, and I don't know if Divya will have time to talk of the microplastics that come out of washing, but unfortunately, we are pushing for brands to really put attention onto their take back and recycling systems. It's not happened so far. I hope it will happen soon.
Some amount of, I won't call it recycling, but some amount of reuse where they shred the textile, fine, and it is used either for filling in mattress and pillows, etc., or there is, you can make, fiber again, but that fiber is very, it's a coarse fiber. It is not as fine a fiber like polyester. India, there are some mills in western part of the country, especially in Punjab side, where they import a lot of material, which we know it is all polyester. See, West largely use plastic. We mix a lot of cotton in it. So that once they shred it and they again make filament, but it's a coarse filament used for making carpets, etc., not for making textile not t-shirt from t-shirt. That is not really happening.
Correct.
Send your clothing to dry waste collection center. If nothing, it will go
Yeah.
for co-processing. Some at least heat will be recovered. So yes,
That's the best
but it's
way
a
to
big pain. You know, we don't see it, and we don't see as much clothing and textile coming from apartments because we all donate it and think somebody is using it. We have worked in slums and we see how much clothing and shoes comes from there. It is unbelievable.
Yes,
We
that
think we give
reminds
it
me.
away to our mates, and then they try something whatever fits and they discard. There's so much that
I
comes
think
out.
we have to be conscious of giving them what they need, or really are they
Yeah.
going to use it and then else channelize to a driveway center or a thing.
No, I mean, there are again upcycling possibilities. There's an organization called Green Soul that repurposes shoes by using the taking off the uppers and using the sole. It's called Green Soul, and so like that. There are these kind of smaller solutions, but on a larger scale. Again, footwear is made up of multiple different types of materials. So again, difficult. And there is the PVC also. Largely the soles are made from PVC, so that becomes extremely difficult if there is open burning, which takes place very often for even.
Yeah. So lot of if you see that if you hear that this guy is selling shoes. Discarded shoes, it is actually going as fuel in brick kilns, where it is burnt at low temperatures in short stacks with no pollution emission containment, nothing. So a lot of shoes which is going, it is going illegally to these facilities, which is quite harmful. That PET to filament or HDP to some HDP, it is not plastic. We don't think, although I've read that it says 6 times, but when we see the properties degrade quickly, very quickly. Once it is melted and pelletized, used again and again from that product you want to, so the elasticity, the strength of the fiber, everything breaks down significantly. So the cost comes down heavily, and hence then the cost of logistic collection, competing with virgin material, etc., doesn't work out. So practically, if we see, I don't think more than 2 times, but theoretically they say 6 times.
Yeah, so practically all the low-grade plastic goes for co-processing, along with even as anything which has good calorific value, including your textiles, soiled textiles, shoes, etc. All of that materials can go to co-processing. But now, even at cement kilns are not just accepting this material, although they they use it as an alternative to coal, but they still charge you at a per kg rate for this material. So again, there are limitations from meeting the costs of the entire operations, and so therefore, for instance, if there was a large quantity of, say, fabric or textile waste, soil textile waste that needs to go for co-processing, one would need to pay for it. And that's why I was saying that even this needs to come under EPR. So EPR, we didn't really talk about it, but most of the plastics which are coming under EPR or being, where companies are supporting, is enabling, therefore, at least co-processing and energy recovery. We would definitely like them to invest more than just investing for co-processing, meeting the cost of logistics. We would like them now to invest in proper recycling systems. But all kinds of plastic is currently going to, except for, as we talked, HDP, PET, PP, these are the plastics where there is some kinds of recycling, although even here the recycling is quite informal. So except for these grades of plastic, everything else is going to co-processing.
So this is such a burning topic, people are so gung-ho about it. Logically, it somehow feels, yes, you are compacting something. We say plastic transportation cost is high, you compact it, so then your cost comes down. But the fact is that you are putting laminate, which is a different material, in PET, which is a different material. PET, as I said, recycling rates in India are pretty good. 80% is what is getting recycled. It's a big source of livelihood for informal sector and even the recycling industry. So when we mix all these things in it, the recycler, PET recycling is quite formal. There are few large recyclers. It doesn't happen at the back door. Okay, so they are very particular about the quality. They don't even want a little bit of water in it. That kind of scrutiny is what PET is subjected to. And if you put all this different material inside the PET, how somebody has to pull it out, because right now when the bottles go for PET recycling, they chop off their neck because there could be some ring around it, and the label is also removed mechanically. They are very large, nice mechanized facility, and there you send this bottle filled with this. The only way to remove is to either cut it and separate this material. It's very difficult. So if someone really wants to do something about laminates, take a larger laminate bag. You take this bag and put smaller ones in it. That is good, because that helps. That reduces the volume, and we can do it. Eco bricks, we have tried it. They disintegrate very quickly. They don't have the strength. In very remote places like Ladakh and all, where transportation is a big issue, you can use it to limited extent. But please, in cities where PET supply chain already exists, don't do it. We really request you not to do this. It is LDP. It has good recycling value, but the challenge in milk packet is the milk remaining. If you don't clean it well. I saw in the chat there were some questions around washing of plastic. Does it make sense compared to not? So just remember, there is huge amount of water that gets used in making these items. So definitely washing is justifiable, and you can wash it. When we are asking you to wash milk packet, it is not to scrub off with soap. You can just rinse it and dry it and give it. The same goes true with all kind of items which have food scraps. We are not asking you to use soap and clean. Just rinse it and give it. It definitely makes a big difference to recycling. It is LDP. Typically, electric switches are made with milk packets, so it does get recycled.
So it can be recycled because it's paper, but you do have the lining, which we all know the lining is lining. So that makes it more difficult. But if paper cups were to come to us at our facility, we would put it along with the color paper. Divya showed you the color paper fractions, and it would go for recycling, but it's a very negative in terms of economic value. So again, who is going to a juice shop generally, if he's giving it to, say, whoever his service provider, unless he brings it to a place like where there is a capability for it to be aggregated, it will not get recycled. So that is what we need to constantly ask. The generator or the person who is collecting the waste, does he have the capacity and capability to give it to the right destination?
Yeah, so paper cups, as Vilma said, the anything, not just paper cup, any paper item which has a plastic lining. There are newer paper mills which do have a pre-processing where this plastic gets removed. But most of the older paper mills do not have this, I would say, pre-processing facility, and they're very particular. Then processes get stuck with this plastic, and so they are very particular about not getting material which has any kind of plastic layer. So the paper cup recycling is not as widely prevalent as if you look at newspaper or cardboard recycling. Also remember that when you use paper cup, it's a nice pristine white color. And as I said, all white products go through this bleaching process, which is itself is very harmful. So remember the footprint of making white paper cups.
Correct.
It's not just disposing.
4.5 liters of water used to make one paper cup.
Yeah.
So much more than what you would use to wash
your steel glass.
Oh my God.